So we are in the new year, and kind of a question I've been wanting to throw out to you guys is, how quick do you get back to student ministry after major holidays? Kind of, that's what I want to know. That's what I'm going to talk about. Welcome. This is Youth Worker Daily. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Worker Daily, where we hope to encourage youth workers just like you with tools, tips, resources, and helps so that you thrive in your ministry. My name is Jay Hyam, and kind of another question I have for you this time is, how often do you return to your regular gatherings after major holidays? Major holidays being things like Easter and Christmas. And I ask this question because normally my practice has been that when the major holiday rolls around, we will take a week or two off to celebrate the holiday, and then we'll come back and get back into normal programming. I've also had some seasons where, because of how the church does their holiday programming for the overall church, I've had seasons where we would actually shut down youth ministry, our student ministry, from Thanksgiving to the New Year. Just recently here in my current church, because we wanted to partner with what the church was doing, we ended up not going all the way through to the end of the year, but instead we ended our stuff early December so that we could do things with the church, and we wouldn't be conflicting or competing for time or space. We just simply said, hey, we're going to come alongside, and whatever the church does as a church family, the student ministry is going to do that too. So with those two things in mind, here's the third issue that I'm kind of thinking through. We are still in a pandemic. Depending on our various locations, some of us might still be under certain restrictions or guidelines that we need to be following. And what we have begun seeing as part of the trend with our pandemic is that after a holiday where there are large gatherings of people, or after large gatherings of people for other reasons, the news reports a spike in COVID levels. Now, I'm not opening up Pandora's box about COVID or what you think about COVID or what I think about COVID. I'm simply saying I'm watching the trends, I'm watching what people are talking about, and I'm just trying to be smart and do things the way I think is best for my student ministry, okay? So you do you, I do me, we're all good. But here's what's leading to this question. So with those things in mind, the experience of having 1 or 2 weeks off around the holiday, or shutting down in the weeks leading up to and through the holiday, or even navigating through a global pandemic, how often or how quickly are you returning back to your regular student ministry programming? And I'm asking this because I did something for the first time this year, and I have discovered some pros and some cons, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it. And as I think about next year, I want to do it differently than how I did it this year. But here's what I did. So as I said, in our church, we decided to wrap up our student ministry early in December because we wanted to do things together as a church. We are very much about trying to create a culture in our church where we're not just saying we're multi-generational or multi-ministry connected. We are really trying to do that. And so when there are opportunities for all of our ministries to gather and do the same thing, we try to do that. And so for Christmas, we did a number of things that we just said, you know what, let's just team up, let's pair up, let's do this. And instead of giving families all these different options for their kids and for their students, let's just say we're doing these things and we'll do them together and make it a lot easier for everybody. So that's what we did. And so our last thing that we did in December was the second Tuesday of the month of December. We did our Euro Ball, incredible year-end event, but then that's it. We shut down for the remainder of December, and we participated in the outreach things that the church was doing. Now comes the new year. When do we come back? Well, watching the trends and looking at the calendar and how everything fell, we determined that we were going to wait a couple of weeks before jumping back into our regular programming. Because if the trends held true, after a holiday with large family gatherings and people traveling, there would be a spike. And sure enough, this year there was a little bit of a spike. We had the introduction of another variant to the COVID virus, and those numbers began to climb. Now, we didn't see very many of those numbers at the time in our area, but we did see a rise in COVID cases. Then we looked at the calendar and we said, okay, because of how the calendar is shaped and how we are planning our program for the coming year, it makes sense for us to not only put a couple of weeks aside for COVID, but to wait a few weeks to do a few things so that we can do our calendar better. And so we took all this into account. And so we did not start back in our youth ministry. Well, we were scheduled to start back in our youth ministry on Tuesday, January the 18th. Now, that's a long time between the Christmas holiday and restarting our program. A pro is that we built in that time for the COVID trending uptakes, which was great. We avoided all of that. We gave students extra time to be home, go back to school. We made sure that it was safe, and that was a good decision. I'm glad we made that decision. But now as we put together the program and as we launch, we didn't expect this. We couldn't have planned this, but now we've had 2 winter storms that have canceled our student ministry because the storms have come on the day before or the day of our student ministry. And our current policy at the time of the recording this was, with the schools closed, we closed. And so now we're coming off of already a late start, supposed to start on the 18th. That gets canceled because of snow. So now we gear up for the following Tuesday, which would have been the 25th, which would have been just a recent Tuesday night. But now that gets canceled. And so our first 2 weeks back, we're not back. And so now our break has turned into almost 6 weeks since we've been with our students. Now, again, there's some pros in that. It's given us the time to kind of give us space between COVID. It has given us the time to recoup. It's given us the time to reconnect with leaders and get some other things rolling. But it has also created for us a huge gap that we now have to make up. So as I think about this, I'm saying, hey, there were some good things in this. It's even some personal things. I mean, a couple of our kids got sick. We had some unexpected things happen, and having that time off was super beneficial. But as I think about student ministry, I don't know that I want to wait that long to get back with my students, because this gap has really caused us to lose a little bit of momentum. So as I think through for the next year, one is I'm hoping that we are through this pandemic and we won't have to build in time for us to kind of recover from a holiday break. Instead, I'm hoping that we could take that time off during the holiday, but spring back a little faster. And so here's the question. How much time do you allow within your student programming for those holidays? Do you take off time beforehand, maybe the week or two leading into Christmas? Or do you take time off maybe at the back end, a week or two after Christmas? Especially with Christmas, because you have Christmas and you have New Year's, and depending on how they fall, I mean, you could lose 2 weeks of meeting time with just those 2 holidays. All while trying to navigate family schedules and people traveling for the holiday. So what do you typically do? How do you structure your return after a major holiday? I'm already thinking next year, we're not going to wait so long. We're going to probably come back a lot sooner. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you've done in the past. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about, even as you think about 2023. How much time are you planning on giving? Either it's Easter or Christmas or whatever. How much time are you setting aside for those times? As always, thank you so much for being a part of the Youth Worker Daily. Check us out at youthworkerdaily.com. And if you can, visit us at the Youth Worker Daily on social media. It's YTH Worker Daily. YTH Worker Daily. Come hang out with us. My kids are about to get out of school. I gotta go. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on the Youth Worker Daily. Bye.